Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Horror Analysis. With me, Drew. This is a long video to make, a long video to research. This is horror rock. We are continuing with horror, non-narrative horror, section E, and we're into horror music, horror contemporary music, and horror rock contemporary music. I have 50-something pictures on this, let alone the bands I want to talk about. Right. I was so ready to split this up into 2 or 3 or 7 videos, but I won't do it. It's too much. So, horror music. There's a lot. Horror rock music. Starting 1956, even. I'll go far enough back. Or 57, depending on who you're talking about. There's going to be a sharp divide that I'm going to be talking about in this video, which was, again, going to be, if I split the video into 2, this would be the sharp divide. The sharp divide is, I want to say style versus substance, but that's not it. Or even, horror performances versus horror themes in the actual music. But that's not it either. It's the branch that leads off into the shock rock type people, and the branch that leads off into the non-visually shocking but darker themes. And they're complete mix and match. I mean, some of the guys who... we'll go over the first 4 people that we talk about. 2 will be very theatrical, the shock rock type, and 2 are, showmen or whatever, but they aren't... one is basically just a joke band, but he looks normal. He just does funny faces and a funny voice. I'll start with the earliest. I want to start at the root, or get as close to the root. I'm sure there's roots further back. But, if you talk about music today, and you talk about its roots, how far back do you have to go to get the Beatles? And how far back do you have to go from the Beatles to get to, the black blues musicians or the country musicians? It's a very obvious history lesson for that sort of stuff. But the first person I want to talk about influential. I just picked up a CD by him not too long ago, and I listened to this song, and I was like, oh yeah, he wrote this song. This was one of those old 50s rock guys, Bo Diddley. And it's like, oh yeah, he wrote that song. And I thought about the themes of it. It was like, this is really dark. And then I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it found out more stuff about it that was like, oh, this counts. So I decided, okay, I got to put this in. I said that like half an hour ago. So that was Bo Diddley's "Who Do You Love?" Walked 47 miles of barbed wire. Got a cobra snake for a necktie. Most famously covered by George Thorogood, but came out in '56. But the chorus is "Who Do You Love?" And then what I didn't get, because I don't pick up on these kind of hints or these sort of things. But this is apparently what you're supposed to get from listening to the song a couple of times, and I've listened to it 10 times. You're supposed to get, it's not who, W-H-O, do, D-O, You Love. Eventually, it becomes Who Do You Love? Hoodoo, which is which is voodoo sort of thing. Um, I was not picking up on that hint. I needed Wikipedia to tell me, and of course, Wikipedia could just be flat out wrong. But most people seem to think, no, it's not. But Bo Diddley is one of these guys. He influenced all rock and roll. So much rock and roll is directly attributed to Bo Diddley, and he's just one of these guys that doesn't get the credit he deserves. But he's even, I'll even go a step further for horror rock. He's got the earliest piece. Of course, covered by George Thorogood, not a horror guy. Covered by a couple of people. Quicksilver Messenger Company, or Express, or something. It wasn't a band I knew, and there's a couple other people who did decent covers. It's not saying their covers are bad, it's just not people I know. That's the earliest. Bo Diddley is not one of these theatrical guys. He's a good showman. He's quite a showman. Was quite a showman. Had the square guitar. He rocked, but he was just a showman the way the Stones are showmen, not in the way that Guar are showmen. If you catch what I'm picking up on, if you're picking up what I'm throwing down. Next, we go into the shock rock, the birth of shock rock, the father of shock rock. According to Wikipedia, and I'm following their lead on this one, and I'll buy it. The father of shock rock is Screaming Jay Hawkins, famous for the song "Put a Spell on You." Actually, one of those things, he got so famous for the one song that he had to sort of make his career out of it. So he did the song "I Put a Spell on You," and he did it in this get up with the skull and the bone through his nose, sort of witch doctor style. That was 1957. Was when that was released. Screaming Jay Hawkins. So it was a year after Who Do You Love by Bo Diddley. Now, I Put a Spell on You has been covered by lots of people. Marilyn Manson, that kids movie that it's about the witches, but it's not witches, it's the other one. Hocus Pocus. That's the one. There we go. Get rid of that. I don't need that. I was going to look up Hocus Pocus, but that's where everybody else knows the song. I know I more know Marilyn Manson's version than any other version, really. But Screaming Jay Hawkins, the original, I'm familiar with enough. And he was the first shock rock type thing, and from that you get the rest. I'm not saying that everybody was copying him. Nobody else went into the witch doctor type things. But they certainly, went into horror-y themes. For some shock rock, there's some shock rock. If you go to the Wikipedia shock rock page, I have the list here. Half of them aren't horror. Either, you could be shocking in a sexual way. You can be shocking in a just the being out of your mind way, like G.G. Allen. He put on a show. He was a spectacle. He was shocking because you wouldn't know what the hell he was doing. He was one that threatened to commit suicide on stage for many years and then ended up dying of a heroin overdose. But there's, sexual shock. Or there's just weird, violent shock. Iggy Pop is on that page because he used to roll around on broken glass and would have his chest bleeding and whatever. Not horror, weird, twisted, shocking, but not horror. But shock rock, there's going to be a lot of horror type stuff in here. The next person on the list doesn't really count as shock rock either. Oh Christ, who was it? It was Bobby Preston. I looked it up today. Yeah. Nope. Bobby Pickett. Alright. Bobby Pickett did the song Monster Mash in 1962-ish. And, the song Monster Mash, it's one of those silly novelty songs, I guess is how everybody describes it, which is what it is. And of course, that's not really horror. It's not scary. It's got monsters in it, but that doesn't mean anything. It's Scooby-Doo version of horror. And that's kind of insulting to Scooby-Doo. So, yeah, that's not horror, but, I just wanted to point it out because it is something in that same genre. So, and when he was on stage, I did watch the video of it today. He was just a guy in a normal suit. And he was making weird faces when he was doing the voice and trying to look scary in his normal white bread suit. It seemed strange to me, but whatever. But he wasn't dressed up like Screaming Jay Hawkins. Or the next guy on the list. So the next guy on the list would be Screaming Lord Sutch. He took Screaming Jay Hawkins' title, Screaming, and he's not actually a lord. I don't think. No, I'm almost positive. No, because he's a Cockney. So, think true. Oh yeah. And he was the next person, like 64-ish. There he is with his then girlfriend, and here he is. His song is Jack the Ripper. I would definitely recommend checking this out. It's a decent song. I'm an American, so I guess I didn't have the background to hear Jack the Ripper as a kid. Jack the Ripper always creeped me out because my family's English, I guess, but I wasn't familiar with the Lord Sutch song, Screaming Lord Sutch. This guy's actually pretty good music stuff. Stage shows craziness, he comes out with an axe, or he comes out in the Jack the Ripper costume with his knife, and he in the video that I saw on YouTube, he's like going like this to the girls, ah! And they would scream because he was in his Jack the Ripper outfit. And the song's about Jack the Ripper going around killing people. So, trying to be shocking in that sort of way. And of course he's in the Jack the Ripper outfit, and he's got the knife cutting the girl and whatever. That's the early part of the 60s and the late part of the 50s. Things are going to stew for a little while. Not saying stuff wasn't going on, just not horror stuff. But music was changing, and it was, you're getting into the psychedelic or whatever era, but, you'd also have, from the psychedelic era, you have the birth of heavy metal in the song, Born to Be Wild. which is where the term heavy metal comes from. Um, Heavy Metal Thunder, so the lyric from the song. Um, and it's a harder song, but it's definitely psychedelic. I was about to say psychobilly. We'll get to psychobilly. Um, and from heavy metal, you get back into shock rock again with, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, or horror rock anyway, I guess I should say. Black Sabbath, yeah, Black Sabbath would be horror rock. How much is horror? I guess there's enough of it that's horror that's close enough to horror anyway. If you're a fan of horror, you're usually a fan of Black Sabbath, or if you're a fan of Black Sabbath, you're usually a fan of horror. Um, at least for a couple of songs, the hits anyway. There's some good Black Sabbath. And then there's Alice Cooper, which is also that metally type shock rock. So here's Alice Cooper. This is latter day Alice Cooper. And here's Ozzy, of course, for that's 80s Ozzy, I would think. And then there's lighter day Ozzy. And of course, shocking stuff. Stuff that Ozzy does is shocking. Stuff that Alice Cooper does is shocking. And for the shock side, we'll go into the non-shock side. This is the more of the forking stuff. The shock we'll talk about first, and then we'll go into the metal a little bit later on. The shocking side is... I was trying to think of the right words for this most of the day today. Stage shows that are over the top. For me, it strikes me as that it is trying too hard. They're, they have like masks and they have outlandish performances and they're theatrical, overly theatrical. And it usually takes away from the music, in my opinion. A lot of these guys aren't... I can't see them as being entertaining unless I'm visualizing them in my head. Doing crazy whatever. Alice Cooper I've never been able to get into because, a couple of the songs are good. The Alice Cooper band, the pre-Alice Cooper solo work. But, without the stage show going in my head or seeing it, I just don't get the enjoyment out of it. Some of these bands, I do get the enjoyment out of it. And I wonder, you can make it without the makeup. Why do the makeup? That was a tangent. Sorry. So anyway, we're going to talk about the more theatrical people. I'm going to go through the shock rock list of the people that I wanted to talk about. Did I have a particular order for this? Not really. It was alphabetical. It's no longer alphabetical. Alice Cooper I talked about. Black Veil Brides I wasn't really interested in. I listened to a couple of their songs and skipped it. Christian Death was the same sort of thing. They're shocking in an irreligious sort of way, but not really scary. Danzig's on the list. I'll talk about horror punk separately. I'm just going to leave Danzig and Misfits and Samhain because they're all the same family. So we'll go on to Gwar. That's a really bad picture. Very weird mask. That's what Gwar's about. With some metal. Your standard run-of-the-mill metal. Stage shows full of blood. They kill other people in masks and have the blood squirt on the audience. It's a spectacle. Hansel und Gretel, I don't know much about them. Iron Maiden, that sort of thing. King Diamond. I had King Diamond on here. Was this one, I think. Yeah. Was it? Yeah. That's King Diamond. That's not a good picture either, actually. What? Restart later. I'm not restarting my computer now. I'll be angry if this doesn't work. If this headphone doesn't work, I'm going to be really angry. I'm going to remake this whole video. But let's just continue on and as though it is working. Because I don't want to stop and have to remake this 20 minutes. So King Diamond, the makeup was horror-y. I didn't really actually find the music to be that horror-y. Coral Eye Shut, I guess should have been talked. I'll talk about them now. Coral Eye Shut. I listened to one or two of their things. They struck me as a Russian folk music mixed with psychobilly, which I'll talk about later. It was good, actually. I was enjoying it. Lordy. Oh, Lordy's here. I talked about Lordy before when I was talking about Finland. Yeah, Lordy, and here's another pick. They are really cool. They're worth checking out. Their videos are definitely worth checking out. But their music's surprisingly good. I think they won Eurovision Song Contest, which is usually an entertaining thing. For being dressed like that, their music being as good as it is surprised me. I suppose that's what most people think about, some of these other guys like Marilyn Manson, which I'm about to talk about as well. But, you would think that they would be trying too hard and it would just be not good, but it's actually decent music. So I would definitely recommend checking out some of the videos. The videos are fantastic. You can't miss the videos for Lordy. It's Lordi, not Lorde like the chick singer. Actually, Lizzie Borden's next on the list. I don't think I actually found anything for Lizzie Borden, because when you type in Lizzie Borden and stuff, you get stuff about the murderess. Marilyn Manson's next. There's good old Marilyn. Marilyn's one of these guys. He's horror. Like, Gwar is basically horror all the time. Lordy, basically all the songs are horror-edged. Marilyn Manson, you get the full package of shocking stuff. It's either irreligious or shock through irreligion, or shock through horror, or shock through drug use, or shock through sex. And, none of that takes away from the quality. Manson is really good. Okay, he did a cover of "I Put a Spell on You," which is as you would think, is I don't know if it's a shock rock staple. That sentence was really tough to get out. Shock rock staple. Not many people, people have covered it, but not as a shock rock type thing. Manson did a great cover of that. But Manson does great covers of lots of things. Sweet Dreams, Tainted Love, Suicide is painless. And sometimes he does it creepily. But then he does covers of stuff that he doesn't do creepily, like Working Class Hero, which was just an honest cover, and it was great. Better than a lot of these other ones. Um, and a lot of his songs aren't horror. I can't listen to a band all that often if all they do is horror. So I listened to Lordy. I listened to them for a couple of days. I went and listened to other stuff. I can't see myself keeping a CD of Lordy in my stereo listen to it for 5-10 days straight in my car driving back and forth to work. That would drive me nuts. But Manson, I could, because they have, it's Dope Show, or it's I Don't Like the Drugs, or it's Beautiful People, or it's the covers. It's so many good songs. Apple of Sodom stuff. It's just good stuff. And there's people like them as well. Jessica Adams from Jack Off Jill, or Scarling, which is her newer band. She hasn't done anything in a while. Well, she's done one thing this year. She did a version of Bicycle Built for Two, which is what I saw today. It was interesting. But, she does. Well, Jack Off Jill did some shocking stuff. Sex, and she did shocking stuff. Horror with Messy. Messy, she did a really good horror song. Make You Believe or something like that. I don't know what the title is. Messy with Jessica. You'll find it. It's a great song. Make You Believe. And she was affiliated with Marilyn Manson through some of the. Well, I think she was dating someone in Marilyn Manson for a while, and she certainly worked with like Chris Vrenna and that kind of crew. Nine Inch Nails is on here as well. Not that I can really say much about Nin as horror. It's not really horror. But if you like horror, you usually like Nin. Anyway, so enough about Manson. Manson's great. Manson doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Let's see what else we have. Merciful Fate, I didn't catch anything on. Misfits, I'll talk about later. Mudvayne, oh yeah, Mudvayne. Not my style. I've tried listening to him a couple of times. To me, they're trying too hard. As are the next one down the list, which is Mushroomhead. Again, the more extreme you go with the masks and the face paint and the whatnot and the stage shows and the crazy, it's like you're overcompensating for lack of. I don't want to say talent, but I want to say talent, but I want to be nice about it. Oh well, And of course, Ozzy's on the list. Of course, solo. Rammstein. Sam Hain, I talk about him horror. Talk about him horror pop. Tool. The videos horror. If you like horror, you like Tool videos. Just one of those things. Are the songs actually horror? No, not really. White Zombie. Oh god. I'm talking about White Zombie and regular metal, which I'll talk about them later. Because they aren't, stage shows. They, even Rob Zombie's, I guess, is more horror metal, but White Zombie wasn't like stage shows with people being decapitated and stuff like that. And finally, Zombie Ghost Train, which is a psychobilly band that's on the list for shock rock. I thought they were trying too hard. Um, some of the ones from horror punk. There's Rosemary's Billy Goat and what was this guy? These guys were Nightmare Sonata, and then this is from the psychobilly scene. These are the Klingons, crazy clowns. But all those guys I thought were just trying too hard, and I thought they were more style over substance, so I'm pushing them into the shock rock style grouping, which is just my opinion. Apologize if you're really into them. Maybe just tell me some of the songs I should check out that I didn't check out. I only checked out a couple of these songs per band. So anyway, I'm just going to shock rock. I'm just going to call that one finished. I'm tempted. I'm really tempted to say, okay, that was the shock rock in the early part. We'll talk about, next time. I'll do another video, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go on. Horror punk. I'm going to go over the horror punk family of the Misfits, and then Samhain, and then Danzig. Misfits, I guess, is the most horror-y in theme. There's the Halloween or Last Caress. Samhain, I guess, has some horror stuff as well. Danzig, by the time Danzig comes, he's going just metal. It doesn't really feel scary anymore, or horror-y anymore. My opinion, I guess. Other horror punk that I found. There's a horror punk Wikipedia page as well. That's this list here. Ba-boom. I never got into this band when they were a band before they disbanded. Schoolyard Heroes. I always thought they were too trendy because they look trendy as hell. But you know what? I don't think they were that bad. I think they are still a little bit overly trendy. They Live was one that was pretty good. I listened to the other day. Now, what else is on this list? Nightmare Sonata, Rosemary's Billy Goat, Nimvind, which I didn't find horror-y at all, Serpentines, which I wasn't really impressed with, Vampire Lovers, which I wasn't really impressed with, and the Zombina and the Skeletones, which I didn't find to be particularly horror. The other one on the list, which I did find to be horror and is fantastic, is One-Eyed Doll. These are both really horrible pictures. Good job, Drew. One-Eyed Doll. Poppy, cutesy, evil-y type thing. I think I saw one video where they described themselves as Dolly Parton fronting Slayer or something. I was thinking more along the lines of Betty Boop. She actually has a voice very similar to Jessica Adams, which is a very distinctive voice, which sort of reminds me of Betty Boop, unfortunately. It's distinctive. They have a great song called Be My Friend, which has been stuck in my head, for God, like 2 weeks now. You're a Vampire is also a very good one. Their videos are very good. I would just go and watch all their videos because they're fantastic. It's essentially a duo. It's the vocalist, female guitar, and then the drummer type guy as well, who also does some guitar and some. I saw an acoustic show by them on YouTube with them both playing, one playing guitar and one playing banjo. Um, so I would definitely recommend One-Eyed Doll. And of course, the horror punk Wikipedia page is available as well. From horror punk, we'll go on to a different side of horror punk. Hold on a second. Which is psychobilly. Psychobilly is rockabilly and punk music smushed together. Sometimes when it's overly goth or overly dark or overly horror, they call it gothabilly. But most of the psychobilly type people are going to have dark themes. It started with the Cramps. Let's just go the classic Lux Interior, Poison Ivy. I think, yeah, those are the names, right? These are the early Cramps. I guess their famous one was I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Slower, it's not. This was psychobilly before psychobilly became a thing. Excuse me. My foot's falling asleep. Yeah, so these are the progenitors of psychobilly stuff. Definitely the beginning of it. I can't talk. Should I go through the list alphabetically? I think that's how I have it on here. So I'll go through the list alphabetically. Calabrese, or Calabrese. Calabrese, it's got to be. It's the Bobby, Dave, and Jim Calabrese. Your standard psychobilly type, rockabilly types, but they have kind of a dark lyrical style where it's usually horror related. It comes from the counterculture, these guys, most of the psychobilly is dressed in the leather and that's a bad picture. Pompadours. There's Mad Sin. The very 50s counterculture, greaser type hot rodder thing, and the 50s B-movie horror movies. They absorb that into their thing and make it more punk, and that's where psychobilly comes from. So the 50s B-movie horror is alive and well in these guys' topics. So Calabrese, Dead Don't Rise, There Is an Evil Inside, Vampires Don't Exist, are songs that were noteworthy that I found. I'm going to have to check out more of these guys because I was really digging them. Let's see. The Calamities I just marked as cool, but I couldn't find any pictures. The Chop Tops, the Cramps, Lux Interior and Poison Ivy there. Oh, the Creep Show, which are under T for some reason on my pictures. I think these guys are really good. Definitely worth checking out. That's a horrible picture. Deadbolt I didn't find anything for, but I did for Demented Argo. These are another one of those classic, well, not classic, but psychobilly types. Again, you can see how sometimes, if not often, the the stage makeup and stuff can detract from the music. But for Demented or Go, Bodies in the Basement, one to check out. Flesh Rocks On, I couldn't find any pictures of them. They are more heavy. I like them though. They're actually even almost bordering on metal for being that heavy, but kind of cool stuff. Ghoultown, Hellbillies, Elvis Hitler. For some reason, that was a thing. Horror Pops. I do have the Horror Pops here, which I like the Horror Pops quite a bit. That's an awful picture. That's an awful picture, but that's a good picture. I think they've broken up now, unfortunately, but they were. They were good. Walk Like a Zombie is definitely one by the Horror Pops you should check out. Mistake is another one. Miss, like a young lady. Take. Good stuff. The Klingons, which I mentioned earlier, I was not a fan of. The stage show looked like they were trying to be creepy, but failed. For me, anyway. I think this is Limit Club. I get it right? Yeah, Limit Club. I enjoyed these guys. I think they were pretty good. They were okay stuff, yeah. Mad Sin's actually one that I quite like. The video for Cursed is worth checking out. Sort of a voodoo. Speaking of, since we were talking about voodoo earlier, their German psychobilly band, they did a song Cursed. And the video involves their jilted girlfriends, messing with them through voodoo dolls. The Matadors, I didn't have any information on. Necromantics, oh, these guys are mainstays. That coffin bass, and the Pompadours, of course. Necromantics coffin bass is iconic. The POX, the Ripman, Silver Shine, but it's not too hoary. Oh, and then what do we have? Then we have Tiger Army. Now, I was really not sure if I wanted to include Tiger Army. They're a very good band. Only very few of their stuff is horror-y. But they are, and they have horror stuff, they have romance stuff, they have blah blah blah. It's sort of like Scarling or Jack Off Jill, Jessica Adams stuff, or Marilyn Manson. There's 5 or 6 things to you can listen to an album and not get bored with just being horror. Alkaline Trio is like that too. And one of my favorite punk bands is okay. They have some horror stuff like from maybe I'll Catch Fire. What was this? Tuck Me In. Actually, a couple of songs from Maybe I'll Catch Fire have horror-y themes. But it doesn't... You don't get bored with it by having it beat over your head over and over again. So Tiger Army is just mentioning it as a decent band to check out. The Young Werewolves are actually a decent band as well. They're the last ones on the list besides Zombie Ghost Train, which I talked about in the horror, the shock rock stuff, because I wasn't that impressed with them. Okay, so we'll go over metal. For contemporary metal, that's um, not on the super shock side. Wikipedia counts him as shock, White Zombie. That's an awful picture. That's a better picture. And Rob Zombie himself, which Wikipedia doesn't count as a whatever. I don't think thematically White Zombie's all too shocking. Rob Zombie thematically is horrific. Of course, Rob Zombie also directed Halloween, House of a Thousand Corpses. Wait, no. Yeah. Wait, because there's yeah. Um, what was his most recent one? Ghosts of Salem. Why am I not? I'm just flaking today. Lords of Salem. What's going on? Why am my brain? Why can't I brain? Um, musically, which is what we're supposed to be talking about. There's his first solo album. Was it Hellbilly Deluxe? I have to look it up now, of course. Yeah, 1998, Hellbilly Deluxe, which was Dracula and Living Dead Girl. Just a great album. I remember listening to that over and over and over again. As a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. Yeah, he did Halloween in 2002, House of a Thousand Corpses, I was right. What was... Oh, The Devil's Rejects, that's the other one I was thinking of. And then... We did Lords of Salem? Yeah, Lords of Salem movie. Sorry guys, that was going to drive me nuts if I didn't get my facts straight on him. Metally stuff. Definite horror themes, Living Dead Girl and Dracula. Oh, and I talked about these guys before as well. This is Moonspell. I talked about them when I was going over Spain and Portugal. I think they are Portuguese. And they did a video. They did a couple of videos that were very horror-y. And there's the werewolf one that I talked about earlier, and they did the soundtrack for "I'll See You in My Dreams." He's a little screamy for my taste. I'm not a Scream fan, but it's not bad. It's just not my style. Where he did the werewolf one, but what was it called? I'll think of it and put it in the description, hopefully. Okay, so from this, the standard run-of-the-mill metal, we go into doom metal, which is the doom metal Wikipedia page. I'm not a metal fan, really. I listen to little metal, not much. I listened to some of this, and some of it was good, some of it was just annoying, some of it was not. I couldn't find some of these bands that had anything under 17 minutes long, and I can't deal with a 17-minute long song. Bands like Sun and Mournful Congregation, they're on here, but I can't deal with a 17-minute song with, after 8 minutes of droning, a guy screams for 20 seconds and then in an unintelligible way, and then it's back to this droning, weird stuff. It doesn't horrify me. It just confuses me. But some of it's not bad. Um, this is essentially taking Black Sabbath as the originators and then ramping it up in different ways. There's Spiritus Mortis. That's a really bad picture. Good job, Drew. Who did... It's a very Black Sabbath sound sped up. It's very Tony Iommi-esque. As is Pentagram. These are the... Spiritus Mortis are Finnish, and I think Pentagram are from the Northeast. And check out that metal mustache. Can you check that out? Wow. That's epic. 80s metal mustache or 70s metal mustache. There's a very Tony Iommi feel to it. Tony Iommi being the guy from Black Sabbath. You can definitely feel that vibe that comes from it. And from this, from the Northeast, other people followed in Pentagram's footsteps, and from the Finnish people followed in Spiritus Mortis footsteps. And there's a southern strain as well, such as I Hate God. That's EYEHATEGOD, all one word. Which I noted as being screamy, ridiculous metal. No idea if lyrically it's horror. It's too indecipherable. If they're screaming the whole time, and I can't understand what they're talking about, the music doesn't actually strike me as all that horrific. I don't even remember who these guys were. Catatonia. Oh, I actually liked Catatonia. They're more... They had some sort of pop sensibility to them. Less dark, not bad, but certainly metally. It didn't really strike me as horror, but these things happen. Oh, I think I figured out a picture that I missed. Do I have My Dying Bride on here? I know I have the picture of it. My Dying Bride. Open. Okay, and then there's My Dying Bride. It was atmospheric and dark. This is from the Death Doom. In the Wikipedia article, it subdivides things down, which I like. There's the Finnish, the Southern, and the Northeastern. There's the I Hate God, Pentagram, and Spiritus Mortis. And then there's the other subdivisions being Funeral Doom, which was the 18-minute songs of mournful congregation with a little bit of screaming. There's the Drone Doom, which was the drone of Sun, which I just didn't get. I actually watched an interview of a guy talking about how much he liked Sun, and I didn't get it then either. It's just one of those things. Sorry, I don't get what you're doing. Death Doom, which is My Dying Bride, and then Black Doom, which is Catatonia. I just picked one band at random essentially and checked out those guys as a representative of the genre or subgenre. Black Doom, the Catatonia, it was actually this. I think it just might have been the band or the song that was poppier. Death Doom was dark and atmospheric. Poorest Waltz was the name of the song. It wasn't bad. It was like 7 minutes or so, which is above my upper length of song lengths. Um, you know, again, I'm just pointing it out. It's not something I can follow or enjoy, but um, if you want to check out some death, doom metal rather, check out the Wikipedia page. Maybe you'll find something you like. Um, and there's other stuff. There's the Goth tradition as well, which is what I wanted to finish up with. Goth tradition coming out of like Sisters of Mercy or Cure. There's some good stuff in here. I know most of these bands through covers. There was a Smashing Pumpkins Goth Industrial CD that came out when I was in college, and I really enjoyed it, so I knew some of these bands essentially just from this. Rosetta Stone did and they're in Goth Rock Wikipedia article. Incubus Succubus, I know them from doing a cover of a great, fantastic cover of Paint It Black by the Stones. Balaam and the Angel, they struck me as Cure trying to be Sisters of Mercy. They're okay. The Horrors, the band The Horrors, I didn't enjoy. I thought they were boring and Curie and not very good. But then there was the Fields of the Nephilim. Now, these are the Fields of the Nephilim. It's more of a Sisters of Mercy type thing, and these guys are kind of cool. I'll definitely check out their music video. What's the name of their music video? Let me see if I can find it. Preacher Man was a video that I enjoyed. It's got some masked, like, subhuman type things, creepy subhumans, which are good stuff for horror fans. Other than that, you have the Dark Wave, which was another Wikipedia article that I had read a while ago, and most of this, most of this was just atmospheric, something Cure-esque, I guess. Birthday Massacre was actually Jack Off Jill-ish, but poppy. Love Spiral's Plan of Zymox, Cold Cave, which I didn't think was very horrific. Frozen Autumn was Cure-esque. But basically that's my lists anyway. But there's the people who dress in their outfits, in their stuff that's gets silly. I mean, Manson's even guilty of this. I think a lot of Manson's detractors are only looking at the way he looks and not listening to what he's saying or musically. I mean, he's saying stuff about drugs, which the detractors would have gone after him in the 90s when they went after him mostly. He's established now, but he hurts his own cause, I guess, or these guys all hurt their own cause if you're talking about music as music. But then again, there's the spectacle thing. Some of the spectacle people don't have the music to back it up. Some of them do. And I pointed out, obviously, who I think does, and Marilyn Manson certainly does. I was just using him as an example. And Ozzy certainly does. But there's I don't even know if Screaming Jay Hawkins does. But I mean, you can see the. I would recommend going to the Wikipedia website, Wikipedia article on shock rock, and looking at the tree of where it begins and where it ends. Now, I can hear Screaming Lord Sutch in Black Sabbath. I can't really hear I Put a Spell on You in Black Sabbath, but I can in Screaming Lord Sutch, because it would be, what, 10 years, 7 years before them? Not the Jack the Ripper song, but some of their other songs. I mean, it's 7 years of musical advancement that's missing from it, but I can definitely see it as a grandfather figure. And even here, that picture. They're interchangeable, aren't they? Yeah. Anyway. But I can see it's not a straight line. It's a very curvy line. And some of the guys on this list are spectacles. And some of the people, I mean, Rob Zombie with Hellbilly Deluxe had a horror album. It was essentially, I don't remember a lot of the songs now. It's been over 5 years since I've listened to the CD. But, Living Dead Girl and Dragula are the songs I remember word for word, certainly. And he doesn't look, I mean, he looks, oops, wrong buttons. He doesn't look the same way that, say, that guy looks from Zombie Ghost Train or whatever the heck it was. Not the Knock Zombie Ghost Train. Not the Knock Zombie Ghost Train. I just didn't dig it. R.I.P. was the name of the song, I think. It was just a little over dramatic, and by a little I mean a lot. He doesn't look like Guar or Lordy. Rob Zombie looks like Rob Zombie. But he's as horror as the other guys, if not more so. And directorially, he's obviously more so. But as a musician, he's as horror-y as some of these other guys. Even the Cramps, who did, how, it's less is more, I guess, sort of thing is, there's a part of the point I'm trying to make here. I don't know. It's the more stuff you put on your face, a lot of time makes it seem like the less you have to say musically. And the less scary the musically your stuff is. In terms of what we were talking about before, in previous videos, these guys, well, hold on a second. From the shock rock, this less is more type thing, and the shock rock, you can also see that horrorcore, the rap that we were talking about last time, also comes back to Screaming Jay Hawkins and Alice Cooper and Ozzy and Guar and those type of guys. The clown makeup gets into the Klingons here. I'm not sure if they beat out ICP and who came out with clown makeup first, or Nightmare Sonata. They weren't clowns. They're skeletons. But, you know, or Mudvayne. They also come from this shock rock family tree. They're further down the line, even though they break into rap, hip hop at that point. What I was saying, well, the other point I was going to make is music itself. Is it horror in a non-narrative horror sense? I don't think so. They're, again, storytelling. Jack the Ripper is a story about Jack the Ripper. I Put a Spell on You isn't really horror. It's a bluesy romance with themes, or even, who do you love? Who do you love? Or Monster Mash, I guess, which it's not horror. It's just using the lyrically poetry telling a story. Lordy certainly does this. Guar does this. Ozzy, when he's being horror, does this. Again, Ozzy very much able to not do horror stuff. He can just still does metal, but he doesn't have to do horror only. Alice Cooper certainly does things in a narrative way, as do most of these guys. One-Eyed Doll. You guys got to check out Be My Friend. It's worth it. And you're a vampire. If it's horror, they're doing it in a lyrical way, in a narrative way. Nothing strikes me as being horrific or horror from just the music. That 15-minute or 20-minute Sun or mournful congregation stuff that I couldn't get into, it didn't strike me as scary. Moonspell doesn't strike me as scary as music. I mean, their voices can be creepy, which is just sound effects, I guess, which makes me think of a story in my head. Marilyn Manson singing creepily "Sweet Dreams." Yeah, it puts a story in my head of being creepy, but it's not. When it's not narrative, it's disconcerting through other means, like Marilyn Manson doing the third verse of Sweet Dreams, where it's all raspy and squeaky. Now, it doesn't strike me as non-narrative. This creepiness of the voice puts a story in my head, or the lyrics tell a story of horror. Either way, it's not a non-narrative horror. It's not a non-narrative form of art. Okay, folks. Next time, continuing with theatricalness, we're actually going to go to horror theater. Horror dance. Talk about the Grand Guignol some more, hopefully. Well, a little bit. I think I exhausted most of it, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. Horror theater, which is going to include horror dance, which I like horror dance. And probably some other stuff theater-wise. What's next? Theater and dance. Ballet. Right. Okay, folks. Thanks for watching non-narrative horror. We'll continue next time. My name's Drew. Thanks for watching Horror Analysis.